Alright everyone, it's time for another and now for something horrible. Today I wanted to talk about botflies, which some of you are probably familiar with. This is another causative parasite for human myiasis, which is fly infection or infestation of human skin. It's really disgusting. If you want to go on YouTube and find videos of this, it's interesting, but fair warning, it's incredibly disgusting. Um, this sort of myiasis occurs in multiple animals, not just humans, particularly livestock, deer, dogs, and so there's a lot of videos of this. These are botflies themselves are not a huge problem, but other flies do cause very severe, potentially lethal myiasis. Um, but the botfly is probably one of the most famous parasites of humans, just because people kind of know about them. Frequently, tourists will get infested with them if they've spent time in Central and South America in the tropics and like the jungle and stuff like that, or the rural tropics. So people know about this, but they probably never really seen the life cycle. So I found this really cool drawing from Geraldo Victorino de Franca Jr. So credit to him, but this does show the basic life cycle. And what's interesting about this, so these are astridids. This is the human botfly, which is Dermatobia hominis. But these are astridids, which are not particularly common flies. They're fairly large. They tend to be pretty hairy, and what's interesting about them is that they actually lack mouth parts. So the adults are incapable of feeding. True astridids are incapable of feeding. And it's all their calories have to be consumed while in the larval state, and then the adult doesn't live very long. It's just for like 10 days, 8 to 10 days, because they are incapable of taking in food and water. So what's also interesting about them is that they don't actually attack their hosts directly. What they normally do is they are very fast, and they are capable of capturing other species of fly, particularly with humans. This is done with mosquitoes, although other things like houseflies can do this are their targets as well. And the human botfly captures other flies and lays its eggs on the exterior of the fly, which is what is happening here. Then those flies, like with mosquitoes, find the host, in the case of humans, and then bite the host, making a wound, and the eggs fall off, the larva hatches and crawls into the bite wound, which is what's happening here. This is the larva. They are these bulbous, disgusting sorts of things. The head is actually on the bottom here. This is the tail end. This is the posterior spiracle. This is how it breathes. So it keeps an air tube above the skin so it can breathe. And that's how they're frequently removed, is if you have a myiasis infection, you can cover this breathing tube with like petroleum jelly or other things like, I think people use nail polish for like ticks and things. And then it can't breathe, so then it crawls out of the skin. It's really disgusting. Eventually, when it's done feeding on the flesh, which can take weeks, it can take like 2 months, it crawls out of the skin, which is not great. So one of the things here, all this black you're seeing in this drawing, these are spikes, the backward-facing spikes, so that you can't pull them out. So then they have to burrow out backwards, tearing at the skin. They fall out, they pupate in the soil, and then the adult emerges. So this is what a myiasis infestation looks like. All you see here is a breathing tube. Like, it's obviously swollen and awful. But all you are really capable of seeing here is a breathing tube. And this is what you would cover up. If it won't crawl out, if you cover it with petroleum jelly and it's still refusing to be removed, or if it like dies inside and you need to remove it so you don't get a massive bacterial infection, you have to go in and surgically extract these. So it's just this horrible cyst that forms on the skin, and in that cyst is this very large maggot. And I do mean large. So this is kind of an early stage maggot. And you don't want this. This is what I was talking about with these backward facing spikes. So this is the head end. And then it has all these backward facing spikes so it can't be pulled out. And this is the tail that sticks out from the skin so it can breathe. But they get really large. This is a late instar larva that's on the verge of pupation. You can see all this coloration. This is becoming sclerotized to form the puparium. And so this is the head. These are these spikes that you see on the front. These are the mandibles. So in fly larvae, frequently, so when you think of mandibles, you think of like caterpillar mandibles, which chew together like this. They kind of incise, or they kind of scissor together to chew. In fly larvae, these mandibles are frequently twisted vertically into mouth hooks because fly larvae generally aren't predaceous. They tend to be, or even if they are predaceous, they tend to be liquid feeders or feed on bacteria. So they have these hooked mouth parts that they can just go, and they can move them up and down, but they can't move them together. And they can suck up liquid and bacteria that way. So these are the anterior spiracles, the posterior spiracles back here, so that's how it breathes. This is a large maggot. So you can see here, this is like the size of your first knuckle. So this way it's about the first knuckle on your finger. They're very large. You can see all the spikes. This would crawl out of your skin and fall to the ground, where they pupate into a very large fly. So this is the adult ostritid. No mouth parts up here. It's actually a fairly attractive fly, like as far as a fly goes, as far as just a regular black fly goes. But the ostridids are kind of cute looking if they weren't so disgusting. So this particular disease, the human botfly parasite, is common in the tropical parts of Central and South America, in the rural regions. If you're in a city, you're not really at risk of this. But if you live on a farm and you're around livestock animals and stuff like that, you are at risk of this, and it can be a consistent problem. So that's the disgusting human myiasis botfly maggot and adult, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.